What's up guys, Codepunk here. Welcome to another tutorial of vanilla JavaScript programming. Today we're going to learn how events work in JavaScript and how you can add events to different elements like buttons, forms, or any kind of element in vanilla JavaScript. So first of all, I'm going to open a script tag over here and I'm going to teach you guys how to create a simple basic event listener in JavaScript in your document. So for that, I'm going to create a button over here and I'm going to give it an ID of btn, and let's right click main it. By reloading, we can see that button is over here. So I'm going to add a basic event listener to this button. For that, I'm going to fetch that button first in a variable or constant over here by doing document.getElementById. If you don't know about these methods in the document by which you can get the elements in document, don't forget to watch my other video in this series where I teach you guys how to fetch elements in the document. So we're going to pass the ID over here, and that is btn. We're going to call a method over here, which is a native JavaScript method and available to us in each element that we fetch, and that is add event listener. And we're going to call that method and pass it first the type of events that we want to add to this element. Right now, that is going to be click, and in the next parameter, we can pass any method that we want to run, which will act as a listener. So whenever we click on this button, it's going to run this method. So whatever method that you pass to this method is called a listener. So that means that whenever you click, it is listening that whenever you click, this is going to run off that body of that method over here. Now, I'm going to just write over here, alert, you clicked. After reloading, when I click on this button, I get an alert with you clicked. Okay, we can do anything over here in the listener as we do in the simple JavaScript. Let's say we have a heading over here which says hello, and we give it an ID of message. Let's fetch that heading over here by calling its ID. That is going to be message. Now, whenever we click this button, we get we change the text content of heading with hello world, right? Let's reload. There we go. When we click on this button, it says hello world. There are lots of types of events that we can pass in over here. So we're gonna cover most used and common ones. So for example, there is an event which works by if we move the mouse over an element or move the mouse out of an element, and that is mouse over. Let's reload. So when I take this mouse to our button and hover over it, it changes the text of our heading. Let's add another event listener. By the way, you can add multiple event listeners to an element just like this by copying it over, right? So first, in first listener, I change the text of that heading, and in the same second listener, I make an alert. You entered the button. When I reload, it's going to first change the text and also give me an alert. There we go. Both of those listeners run. Okay. So what I want to demonstrate to you guys is let's use mouse out over here and change the text of that heading back to the original, and that is going to be hello. Let's reload. So when I go over the button, it says hello world, and when I get out, it says hello. All right, so up until now, you've learned how we can add basic events to any element, and don't forget, you can add these events on any kind of element, even headings, paragraphs, divs, images, any kind of element in your document, right? Right now, I'm going to teach you other types of events that you can add to the elements, like form elements, and how you can change their behavior or get the data in these event listeners. Let's create an input over here. Let's say type equal to text, and give this input an ID of name, and also give it a placeholder. Enter your name, right? Okay. The main goal of creating this input is that whatever name that you enter in this input, like Codepunk, right? So you take this name and render that name into this heading over here. So hello Codepunk. It greets that user, right? For that, let's add an event listener to this input. So first, we are going to fetch that input over here. I think I'm going to write this up over here after this. So our greeting input, let's fetch that from the document, and that is going to be name. Let's change it to name input, right? Okay. Let's add an event listener. So greeting input dot add event listener. What will be the event type that we're going to add to this input? We can add click, mouse over, or mouse out that we have learned up until now. We need to add another event listener to this input. So whenever we change this input, right, like type something, it changes, it triggers that listener and changes the text of this heading. So for that, we're gonna see the keyboard events, like we saw the mouse events, mouse over and mouse out. By the way, there are other type of events for mouse too that you can see in the Mozilla docs or W3 docs. So right now I'm going to focus on the keyboard events, and that is going to be key up or key down, right? So there are two types of events, like when I press the key in, and when I take that finger out of the key and it gets up, then that event gets fired. So I'm going to do the key up event after typing. When we leave that button off the keyboard, that's going to be fired. So I'm gonna pass an arrow method over here, right? Okay, about this. So over here we need to change the text of the heading, right? So let's say heading dot inner text equals to hello space, and over here we need to add whatever is in the input, right? So how are we going to get that data? To get that, in every event listener, whatever method that we pass, we can get the information of that event in a parameter. And we can name that parameter whatever we want. In that event, it holds all of the information on whatever element that event is being called upon and whatever listener that we added. And there's a whole bunch of information in there. I think I'm going to show you guys. I think that's going to make it easy. Let's see. Okay. So inspect, and I'm going to zoom in. Console. Let's run the let's trigger that listener, right? Let's see. Okay, this is that event information. See how it says keyboard event. Let's open this up. See, there's a lot of information that is that holds the configuration of our event, and we can also use this information in order to make the behavior or produce whatever we want. So what I'm going to focus on is this target attribute of this event's information, right? So whatever element the event is being triggered on, we get that element in the target property. So we have that target property over here. We can use this, right? We can call the dot value attribute of it of input on this target, right? Because that target is the actual element, right? We can call anything, any method on this. So we can get that value over here by doing string interpolation, changing this to here, and we can say event dot target dot value. comment this out. Okay, and I'm gonna drag this down. Let's reload and let's type Codepunk. You see it is updating whenever I do the key up, right? Let's type John. Okay, there we go. Okay, let's change this button text to greet world. So that's gonna say hello world, right? There we go. Yep. Let's say John, right? So we also have other type of event values that we could get. Like, let's say we have a select over here, and in this select we have options. In those options, let's say John, and another option, let's say no. Okay, although those are used as first and last name. Let's give an ID to this select, say names. Let's get that select over here. Names select document dot get element by ID names select. So I'm gonna add another event on this. Let's check and reload first. There we go. We got the select, right? So whenever we select any name from this select, we can use we want to show up that name over here after the hello, right? So let's add that event listener. Okay, so what type of event we need to add to this select, and that exactly is the change event. Whenever this select value has changed, we let's trigger this event, right? This event listener. So I'm just going to do inner text and call out hello $event dot target dot value. There we go. Let's do reload and let's say do. It is not working because we haven't got the select. It gives an error. Online 30 cannot read properties of null. Adding event listener. That means yeah, we've added the wrong ID. Let's change that ID and reload. Okay, there we go. Do and John. Yep, it's working great. Okay, there are a whole lot of other events that we can add to our document elements, and we can use those to create a behavior that we want. I will teach the other events in the advanced tutorials, and we're going to do a short project in our next tutorial that will teach the most advanced type of events and advanced type of vanilla JavaScript, introducing changing